morning, YouTube friends. This is Jim. Thanks for visiting my channel, Off-Grid Living, The Bennetts. Well, this video is all about me venting about my EG4 6000XP Inverter. I have had nothing but problems with this inverter. It has been so frustrating to me. So, I'm going to give you a rundown what's going on here. I bought this thing in February of this year. I didn't install it till probably March. Initially, when I set it up, I had lead acid batteries, so I set it to lead acid batteries, and it worked. But as soon as I turned on a microwave, then the inverter would kick off. Or if my jet pump for my water came on, it would kick off. Nothing but problems. I could not believe that I couldn't get this inverter to do what I wanted to do. I had 8 6-volt lead acid batteries. So I called support. Support is in the States. I didn't have a phone plan on my phone for calling the States. I didn't really realize that at the time. And so I called the States. I was on hold, sometimes for up to 45 minutes. I finally got a hold of technical support. The guy was actually really good. He walked through all the settings on the inverter with me. We changed multiple settings. Settings that I had set properly, but just seeing if we could do it differently, having the cutout different, just changing settings. So I probably spent a good half hour, 45 minutes on the phone with this fella. So I said, we'll leave it, we'll see what happens. Same problem. Did the same thing. So then I thought, okay, I'm going to get an electrician out. Check my wiring in my house, check everything over. So I called an electrician. Ended up costing me almost $500 for this electrician. He spent half a day at my house checking over all my wiring, checking over everything. I had him call support for me for the EG4 inverter. So now I've got support on the line. I've got an electrician. We're going through all the settings again, all over again, doing everything all over. And everything's set right. Everything's set perfectly. I'm thinking, why doesn't this thing do what it's supposed to be doing? Well, apparently, there's supposed to be it's called a dongle. There's supposed to be a dongle in the box when I bought it. There wasn't one. So support said to me, we're going to ship you out a new dongle. Okay, perfect. With this new dongle, what's supposed to happen is I'm supposed to get my inverter, sync it with the dongle, go online, have it all synced up. So then support can actually see all the settings on my inverter from their end, not through the internet. Perfect. I thought, great, let's do this. Let's get this thing going. So I waited for this dongle to show up. I waited and waited and waited. 3 weeks passed. I called. I said, where's my dongle? Well, he says, we shipped it out. I says, okay, well, is it coming by Purelator? Is it coming by FedEx? Is it coming through the mail? How's it getting here? He says, I'm not sure. I don't have that information. I said, well, where's the tracking number? Well, I don't have that for you neither. I says, so you sent me this dongle, but you don't have a tracking number? He says, no. I says, well, I've been waiting forever for this thing. He says, okay, we'll send you out a new one. We'll send you a second dongle. I said, okay, well, call me with the tracking number. Let me know how I'm getting this. He said, okay. So I'm waiting for this dongle for the second time. Still never showed up. I called them up and I says, what's with this? Well, because of immigration, tariffs, all the stuff going on. He says, I don't know where it is. I said, where's the tracking number? He said, I haven't got that. I don't have the information. So anyways, the previous call and this call, we sat on the phone again, going through all the settings. He changed a couple other settings and he says, well, we'll try that. I got off the phone. I flipped all the breakers off in the house. I turned on my table saw, which is a 15 amp breaker. The inverter tripped. Okay, so then I turned that off. So then what I did is I started my jet pump for my water. My jet pump is only using 8 amps and it tripped. So anyways, by this time I'm starting to get really frustrated, and I left a little bit longer, and I've spent all this money on fuel for my generator, and ended up having $150 worth of long distance phone calls to this company. Anyways, one thing led to another. They finally said, okay, we're going to send you out a brand new inverter. Obviously, there's something wrong with the inverter. I said, great. When will I get that? Well, you probably have it by the end of the week. So I waited for it. It never showed up. I called them up and they said, oh, well, you have to fill out this form now. Well, why didn't you tell me that a week ago? So I filled out the form, emailed it to them, and then waited. My first dongle never showed up. My second dongle never showed up. My inverter never showed up. We're talking about the EG4 6000XP. Well, I wasn't really going to bash them, but I was really getting frustrated with them, and so I'm just not happy with this company at all. So then, what happened next? What happened next was I called them and I said, when's my inverter coming? Well, you have to fill out this form. Well, you know, I've got the email. I filled it out and sent it back a week previous. So anyways, finally they acknowledged getting the form. They said, okay, well, I bought my inverter from Cabin Depot. So they're going to get a hold of Cabin Depot and make arrangements for me to get a new inverter. Well, we're now into July. So I'm waiting to see. So I think I called them a couple more times. Every time I call is another long distance call. Finally, I get a call from Cabin Depot. And they say, yes, we've been told that we're going to send you a new inverter. He says, we were just talking to the company yesterday. I said, yesterday? They've been telling me for a couple of weeks that they're dealing with you. He says, nope, they called us yesterday. And we're right away calling you. So, the fellow from Cabin Depot, Kyle, his name, he says, send us your inverter and we'll send you a new inverter. I said, hold on a minute. That's not going to work. This inverter is not working the way I want it to, but it's still giving me some hydro. I mean, I got extension cords spewed all over the house, everywhere. I says, you send me a new inverter with a shipping label, I'll send the old inverter back to you. He says, let me get back to you in a minute. little bit. I said, okay. So he called me back a few minutes later. He says, yep, that'll work perfectly. He says, it's a long weekend on Monday, but he says, we're going to get your inverter out to you with a shipping label right away. And you know, he did. I was talking to him on the Friday, and by the following Tuesday, I had my replacement inverter. I thought, perfect. I told him beforehand, I says, last time I got the inverter, it didn't have my dongle in it. He says, I'll open up the box for you, make sure there's one in there, which he did, and there was. So great. So, my new inverter came, and as far as the company goes, EG4, I think their inverter is a superior inverter, but the support system was very poor. So I get my new inverter. I get this thing, and I hooked it all up, expecting to have this great, marvelous hydro system in place now. And I turned it on, and would you believe, I had the exact same problem. I'm thinking to myself, I've got the batteries, I've got the inverter, the hydro's good, everything's good. Why is this inverter still doing this thing for me, not working properly? So I call up Cabin Depot. The fellow from Cabin Depot told me, he says, we have our own support team. He says, I know the inverters inside and out. If you'd have called me a couple months ago, we could have had this solved way before now. So he helped me run through getting the dongle hooked up. He looked at my system online. We made some changes that he said, changes that weren't made through EG4 support. He made a few extra changes, and he says, let's try that for a couple of days and see what happens. He says, okay. Nothing worked still. Same thing. Extension cords all over the house. I've got a solar system that I originally had put in the house, was in my shop. I've got extension cords running from the shop all the way to the house. I'm thinking, what now? So I call him up again. What the problem was, and he found it. He says, start turning some stuff on in the house. I want to see, like, live exactly what your inverter is doing. So what happened was, I turned on a few things and things were working fine. All of a sudden, my power goes out. The inverter trips. So he's watching this. My batteries are at 56. On my 48 volt system, my batteries are at 56.3. I turned on the microwave. I had a couple other things going. Turned on the microwave, and my battery dropped from 56.3 down so low. My cutout was set at 42 volts. It went below 42, tripped the inverter. So I says to him, I says, what does that mean? He says, my batteries are full, but the inverter draws so much power out when I have a high voltage appliance, a coffee maker, microwave, table saw, jet pump, any of those things. The initial draw from the batteries are below 42 volts. Well, the inverter is set to trip at 42 volts. So he says, so what are you trying to tell me? He says, I wish they would not put that you have lithium batteries or lead acid batteries, because this inverter hates lead acid batteries. It does not like lead acid batteries whatsoever. And your lead acid batteries just aren't compatible with this inverter. You need to buy new batteries. You need to buy lithium batteries. I says, are you kidding me? He says, no. So, I spent, I think, $5,200 on lead acid batteries. And now he's saying that I need to spend, well, we had decided that 200 amp lithium batteries, 48 volts, was equivalent to my 8 6-volt 420 amp batteries. He says you need to buy 2 lithium batteries. I says, well, how's that equivalent? He says, well, it's about the same. So I says, okay, I'm going to buy 300 amp midnight solar lithium batteries. Is this thing going to work? He says, absolutely. I says, okay, let's do it. So I put the order in. I'm going to pull my $5,200 worth of lead acid batteries out. Maybe try to sell them or something. I'm going to put my $6,300 worth of lithium batteries in their place. We'll see what happens. So, this is basically part 1 of a 3-part video. Part 2, I'll be getting my batteries, be checking them over. In part 3, I'll be having them installed, and we'll see what happens. So, if you watch this next video, part 2, and you'll be able to see what's happening and follow along. Have a great day. Thanks for watching.